And let's put our hands together to welcome our moderator, Ms. Manisha Gupta. Ms. Gupta is one of India's most trusted voices in commodity markets, frequently seen decoding trends in agriculture, energy, and metals. Her deep market insights and clarity makes her a highly respected name in agribusiness journalism. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. I would also now like to invite our eminent panelists who are industry leaders, trade experts, and institutional heads, and are directly shaping the future of grain and pulses economies across borders. I invite Mr. Khalid Khan, Vice President, Bulk Commodities, ITC Limited. Mr. Khan brings an extensive experience in procurement, supply chain, and agri-trade at one of India's largest diversified conglomerates. He has been instrumental in building ITC's grain procurement and market-facing operations. I invite Mr. Anupam Kaushik. He is the Managing Director, National Commodities Exchange Limited, NCEL, a market leader with strong background in agri-derivatives and trade facilitation. Mr. Kaushik is driving innovation in commodity exchange platforms and ensuring transparency in agri-pricing mechanisms. We invite Mr. Arnaud Petit, who is joining us online. He is the Executive Director, International Grains Council, and he's virtually joining us from London, and he heads the global body that tracks and forecasts trends in international grains market. His expertise lies in global trade dynamics, food security strategies, and intergovernmental collaborations. We'd like to invite Mr. G.K. Sood, Non-Executive Chairman, MIER Commodities India Private Limited. He's a veteran in the agri-commodity space with decades of experience in trade, logistics, and market intelligence. His insights bridge macroeconomics trend with on-ground realities of the Indian market. We invite Mr. Deepak Parikh, founder Honeybee Tech Incubations Private Limited. He's a known face in agri-tech innovations and is working on technology-driven grain trading, farmer market integration, and AI-enabled tools to strengthen the agri-value chain. And Mr. Naveen Kumar, Head Trade and Structural Finance Organization Supply Chain Solutions, Olam Agri. With a global outlook and extensive experience in agri-finance and trade structuring, Mr. Naveen Kumar plays a key role in aligning supply chains, financial flows, and commodity sourcing strategies for Olam. And ladies and gentlemen, with such a diverse and high-caliber panel, we are now set for an engaging discussions on the future of grain and pulse trade, price outlooks, logistics, trends, and how India fits into the global agriculture map. And I would, with pleasure, hand over to Ms. Manisha Gupta. Ma'am, the stage is yours, and would request you to conclude latest by 12:20. Over to you, ma'am. About an hour.
Thank you so much for that. And the previous session has been such a rock star of a session, Maharaji. It was amazing on how everybody spoke with so much knowledge and passion on making things work really when it comes to cooperation between countries. What we are going to be talking about is the global pulses and grains outlook, and we do understand, as per the FAO statement, that this is going to be a record year, 2025. We're looking at very good, very strong food grain production across world. India being one part of that, Brazil another, and Argentina, and you have Russian production as well on the higher side. And when it comes to pulses, then we're looking at even higher number there as well. India imported record numbers in the previous year, not maybe so much this year, but we're looking at very strong production in the origin countries there. So what does it really mean? What are the factors impacting? And we'll take it from there by one. Khalid, I'll start with you first, and let's start with wheat then. We're looking at very strong numbers for the Indian markets. Of course, the final Indian output number is still something that we seem to be debating right now. But what are you looking at in sense of global overall wheat production? How do you look at India? Do you see India isolated? How would you put on table the whole number set?
Thank you, Manisha ji, and thanks a lot, ICFA and Agriculture Today Group for organizing this wonderful seminar. So, starting with the grains scenario globally, I do agree with your opening remarks, citing FAO's report. Yes, across grains, cereals, wheat, rice, corn, and other commodities, the production has been really good. But at the same time, the demand is just almost equal to the supply. The scenario is very, very balanced. As far as wheat is concerned, we are eyeing a total output of around 809 million metric ton, and demand is also closer to the same number. As far as India is concerned, since you specifically asked about Indian numbers, yes, there are estimates of government of close to 115 million metric tons, although the private trade numbers are ranging from anywhere between 105 to 110. But even if we consider 105, that is a good growth over the previous year, and that reflected very well in the government's procurement and the private procurement. And that is also getting reflected now in the prices, which are more or less stable. Government is having a lot of inventory to control the prices. Coming to corn, the global production is close to 1,250 million metric tons, and the demand is also closer to around 1,260 to 1,270 million metric tons. Then coming to rice, global production is around 540 million metric tons, and so is the consumption. So overall, it's a pretty balanced scenario wherein supply is just enough to meet the demand. Now, coming to what it really means, there are two factors which we need to consider before really concluding anything on this balanced supply-demand scenario across wheat, rice, and corn. So first is the climate change. Scenario so far is looking really good, but the way climate change is impacting the crops and the weather across the globe. For example, as we speak, European Union is facing the worst heat waves that has not been seen in the previous 5 decades. And the scenario is going to be same even in many other countries as well. Similar is the case, the second scenario is geopolitical scenario, which is panning out. Almost every month, you see 2 or 3 countries starting a conflict, and that is taking a really ugly shape. And unlike previous years when the conflicts used to be for a few months, now it is running into years. And that is definitely going to impact the freight costs. So while there is enough production in the origin markets, at what cost will these grains really land into the destination markets? That is something it's going to be impacted because of these geopolitical disturbances. And so we have to be watchful about the climate change and the geopolitical scenario which is panning out. And we have to be careful about both these aspects. Thank you.
Well, Khaled, very well said. Interestingly, while we are looking at record food grain production, we also are looking at strong demand numbers. That is what Khaled tells us. When you want numbers, you go to Khaled. That's how it is. So whether it's about wheat and rice and corn, we're looking at stronger numbers, but stronger demand as well. Mr. Sood, let me come to you now. And for Indian markets as well, when I try to put India with what Khaled said, we're looking at record food grain production in this year. That's how we've been looking at for the last 2 or 3 years now. We're not exporting much food grain, barring rice, which also is not very strong number right now. And then we're looking at the government procurement also not very strong. The inventories are just about okay. Would you also concur with Khaled when he says what we are producing is what we are also consuming?
Yeah, that is correct. That statement is absolutely correct in case of wheat and corn. And rice, we know we are producing substantially in excess of our need as well as the export demand. And so, as far as wheat is concerned, the government of India possibly was not too sure about, they kept an insurance by increasing the stock by 4 million tons and allowing the prices to go very high. And the pipeline was virtually dry. Otherwise, the prices wouldn't have been so high just at the eve of the crop, because normally people liquidate if they have any stock. And right now, with close to 37 billion tons of stock, the situation is extremely comfortable. The pipeline, if anything, has restored by 2-3 million tons, so there is some liquidity there. So we expect the year to go on, and looking at the monsoon forecasts, there is of course impact of climate change which you are seeing, like floods, and in some areas like Vidarbha and Marathwada and some parts of Bihar, little less rain, but that is being made up. So in spite of that, the Rabi might be good, and because the residual moisture in the soil. And we can, as of today, if you put a wager, I'll bet in favor of a still better wheat crop next year, subject to, of course, finishing temperature in February, March. And because I don't agree that so much of heat-resistant seed is available as is made out to be. And so, on wheat, rice, we'll have to find a solution, because there was a political competition to increase the procurement prices. Will that subside? Will that continue? Will that increase to incentivize more rice production when we don't need it? And I, for one, I feel pained that we are putting it in petrol tank at a price cheaper than what we can export. And so, I mean, if we have to pay 3,100 rupees for paddy and sell rice at 2,200 for distillation, in a country which is resource starved, like there's so many other elements of expenditure are waiting for the government. This is a gross misdirection of resources. So we are very comfortable. I wish the government allows export of wheat products, because the demand will not be very high. Turkey occupies that space in the world. So we'll have some demand from diaspora, etc. And so that should be allowed, and so that we are able to continue our branding. So thank you.
Okay. Mr. Kaushik, let me come to you with your initial comments as well. We're looking at stronger numbers when it comes to production. Consumption is nice, but of course we don't agree with all the government policies, not in India and in various other countries as well. But from where we stand right now, given the sense of supply chain, what's your sense on the business outlook and price outlook for many of these commodities? Because from where we stand right now, whether it is the FAO data or the Indian data, we seem to be quite comfortable when it comes to inflation.
That's right. That's right, Manisha. With the God's grace, I think we have been supported by adequate, sufficient and abundant rains across the grain producing areas. And numbers are pretty comfortable, at least for foreseeable future, which is next 12 months. And globally also, the balance sheets are pretty comfortable. There is no stress in any of the individual S&D, whether it is rice or wheat, or it is corn, or other grains like barley and others. So I think we are pretty comfortable across the board. On the export policy also, that's right, that wheat has still not given a green signal to government to relax a free trade thing. Because we need to understand that because the moment we make it absolutely free, it is very difficult to have a sense that what is left. And as we are living in the times of climate change, maybe the liberal policy can actually make us face a setback if one climate season goes adverse. So my sense is that this government is absolutely on the ball in terms of its monitoring the supply, demand, global the price indicators, global S&Ds. So this is much more alacrity. I would say that it's being monitored on a week-to-week basis by some of the most astute observers within the government on the global S&Ds, national S&Ds, prices, supply, demand, responses, flows. Everything is being monitored in a manner any private enterprise would do for their business. So my sense is government is taking the grain supply demand management in a very business-like manner, so to say. So I think policies will remain responsive to the climate threats as they keep appearing on horizon from time to time. And if the threat has not played out and the numbers have delivered on the supply side, I think government will be very responsive in making accommodative policies on the trade. And prices, my sense is that they are indicating, you look at any future and you look at far forward on the price curve, whether it is wheat or it is pulses, everything on a far forward curve is looking that there is no urgency in terms of putting stocks in private space, because there is enough at every origin and the supply chains are well fed and well supplied.
Okay. Let me come to Deepak then for the first comments then. And of course, a lot of interesting stuff is being said here. I will come back with counter questions, but let's get everybody's views in. You know, I put out a tweet, Deepak, on MSP when they were announced. And somebody responded saying, is this minimum support price or is this minimum selling price? I mean, that was one. And it went on a long way then. When Anupam says that government is on the ball, very responsive, one, how are you reacting to that? Two, what is your own sense now in sense of availability and the way the prices have reacted?
See, first of all, we have to appreciate government for one thing. Like, you know, they have become one of the biggest risk taker in the world, right? Not importing wheat, I would say that it was audacious step. 2 years we have seen that actually the challenges in wheat, but taking that hit and then we nearly had a war. God forbid, if the war wouldn't have been 4 days, a 4-month war, what were our buffers? That's $1 million question. Secondly, we have been saying that demand is taking care of the supply. No, sir. Demand has been reduced substantially in wheat. Because if we talk about PDS, if we talk about the Pradhan Mantri scheme of giving free grains, slowly we have chopped up wheat and put rice in that. So when you are reducing the demand by the government, which is one of the largest demand creator, that means demand has gone down, like, you know, and those numbers are millions. Those numbers are not like, you know, error numbers, 2% here or there. Now, so one thing is, I think, established, the government numbers says that the demand has gone down because the government's own procurement has been there, limited for past 2 years. This year, we are celebrating that, yes, great, they've been able to achieve good numbers, procurement. The key belt used to be Punjab, Haryana and West UP. Now, can you read the delta of increase there? You have seen 4 million addition purchase in MP, where there was a bonus being given, right? Then Rajasthan gave a bonus. Now, if I see the traditional wheat belt, I am not seeing any increase. Now, going back to the numbers, I have been talking about it and our own assessment on the ground and the numbers which we believe. And fortunately, we have not changed, unlike the trade, which has moved like, you know, like a pendulum, right? Depending on which cycle of the trade you are in. We believe, like, you know, from the previous year, the shortfall is 2 million metric tons of wheat. So that's reality of India. We'll scrape through this year, 100% yes. But do we want, like, you know, retail price of 33, 34 rupees to be a new normal? Then it's fine, right? I'm all with it, right? This is where actually we have to look at 3 years back, what was the price? This year, compared to last year, we are already seeing 1.5 rupees upside. Now, when you are having, I think, market में बोलते हैं भाव भगवान है, right? So भाव तो पिछले साल से 1.5 रुपये ज़्यादा है. So I would say that yes, S&D is not the only factor which drives the price. There are multiple factors around it. But we see, like, you know, previous year to this year, shortfall of 2 million metric ton. I was among those people who was sitting with the government when they have banned the export of wheat, right? We have recommended that strongly, and luckily the government took it. And after that also price increase. So that time at least we were right. This year, opening of export, I would say that actually government would be fishing in a very troubled water, right? They should not be doing that. Whether it is derivatives or not derivatives, doesn't matter, right? Sentiments, that drives the market. So export, I would say wheat export in any form. If it is on advanced license, you bring in, you process, you send, I don't care. Secondly, the global, yes, markets, I think productions are pretty good. Right, I was in IGC International Grain Council, and I found, like, with most of the analysts, that actually things have been pretty positive there. So global supply condition is always good. And you talked about FAO's number. See, FAO or USAID now, or US Department of Agriculture, they have now taken a practice that actually in India, being a big elephant, don't mess with the government numbers. So if you see, they replicate the government numbers. Previously, they were not doing that 4 years back. Now they nearly, right, replicate Indian numbers. So that shows, in fact, and it's a good positive way that actually that shows the power and the clout India is having on the global commodities market now. Even multilateral agencies also, they don't want to change numbers, they want to go with the government numbers. But that trend has changed. Now, coming to your question on the government policy, I believe government have been good in managing things so far. And I believe they would be able to do perfectly well going forward as well. And they are having a lot of tools in their hands, like, a stock limit, great production, extraordinary production, world record production. We have been talking about all these things. Then the next day you have a stock limit, right? So I think government, while doing good in policy, they'll have to be careful about, like, not sending the signal which are contradicting to each other. Especially for the traders, because we are already knowing that actually there is someone sitting, like, a few thousand kilometers away every day, every morning, creating a lot of challenges. And I believe, like, in India at least we give a good direction of the trade policy to the traders. That would be my say.
For all the people who at one point in time used to complain on how India perhaps comes out with policies with an immediate effect, have stopped complaining that after they see what US seems to be doing so well. Naveen, hi. And what is your expectations right now? What Anupam calls responsive, Deepak calls audacious. How are you looking at markets going forward from here?
So I am a career banker. I always try to see the numbers there. And when demand and supply is almost meeting halfway, what I see is the velocity of money. Is it equal to or similar to the speed of turbulence in the prices? What we have seen, we are one of the largest, structured finance in the country in the agri. And what we see, the kind of volatility which comes in these commodities, what we see in pulses last year, it is beyond what the trade could handle. And across the board, people lost money. So when I see financing in the two ends. One is on the trade side and other on the farmer side. So I'll try to talk about the farmer side because they are always handle the shorter stick since donkey's years. There are almost 12.5 to 13 crore farmers. There's so many options available to finance that on the pre-harvest side. But if we look at the options on the post-harvest side, there are hardly any. It is a simple model. He buys inputs, he buys those things, which he has to pay by the time commodity comes, whatever the prices are there. But I think if we can have a Zomato or Swiggy to deliver food to us, can't there be Uber or Ola to collect that food grain? Can't the APMC go to the farmer? It is possible, it shall be, it is being done in bits and pieces, but for it to come into mainstream, which gives the farmer the option to either choose participation in the risk, make money, or sell it at source at the right price discovery. That will provide solutions when we talk about doubling the farmer income. Last week, the statistics came that farmer income has gone from 67,000 to 94,000 in 9 years. And it looks like a 54% increase. But if adjusted for inflation, it's negative. So technically, he's still there. He's still standing there. So are those avenues available for financing in those commodities, even if supply and demand are there at a similar level? Is he gaining out of that? Maybe not. Coming to the trade side, as a bank or as a banker, if commodity prices go up by, 40% up or 40% down, a financial institution is not programmed to understand that. Neither they can corroborate, offering you with limits corresponding to that increase or decrease in that short span of time. So as a business, you have to, search the alternative ways of financing that. And it is all the more getting complex year by year when trades are getting challenged that you can't simply make money in commodities. You have to do some value add, the information asymmetry decreasing, regulatory intervention is increasing. Whatever plans you draw, they may be, I would say dustbin paper by the end of the week. So for even a scenario where demand and supply are almost equal in terms of production, what strategies do we devise to catch up with the turbulence in the market? And I feel people who have those alternate ways of financing on standby, like could be the case of structured finance or prepayments for your exports. If you have those kind of constructs built in, which we see some of the larger farmers in Brazil and some other countries doing, they are able to pre-sell their entire crop and offload the risk to the market. Our smallholder farmers don't have those kind of opportunities, but maybe say FPOs coming to picture can do that, or on the trade side they can have structured financing built in the place to address these issues.
Oh, well, absolutely, Naveen. You talked about farmers and innovations around for the Indian markets, traders as well. There's no derivatives market. There's no way you can hedge risks and manage your risks. So, there's a lot to be desired here. But if we do have with us Mr. Arnaud Petit, do we have him with us? And then we would like to have his initial comments as well. Can we connect Mr. Petit, please? Do we have him? We have him. Mr. Petit, hi, good to see you. And we can see you online. I don't know if you've been hearing everybody's comments, but we do believe that even as we're looking at record production, the consumption as well is on the higher side. So whether it is about FAO or USDA or various other agencies who've been putting out numbers, and while they've been kind of similar, what is your own sense when it comes to production numbers, consumption, global inventories, and your sense on prices going forward?
Definitely, there is no worries about supply for this coming marketing year. If we look about all the grains, we are looking about more or less record harvest figures. So this is why it's good. We have first sign of the harvest in Northern Europe and in EU particularly. Question of quality for wheat, protein content. We have seen the early figures which may be a bit disappointed. So what we see more, as you said, on demand side, more competition for the feed outlets, meaning between wheat, maize, and soy meal, a lot of competition to go on this specific section of the market, and that definitively can put a bit of bearish side, I would say, for the market. The second point we have to look at is also exchange rate. You know that we are in a currently moving situation about trade, and the question is a trade policy, and the question is which impact on the dollar exchange rate for several countries. That's something to look at because you know that exchange rate can change definitively the market environment. And the third point we have to bear in mind, even if we have a situation with a good level of supply, still some uncertainties about the demand side, but we can see the price of commodities is still 9 to 10% higher than pre-COVID situation. So that means the price of commodities stay, I would say, higher, and it may be a plateau we have seen in 24-25 and will remain definitively for 25-26. So that's also a point to take into consideration when we look about the supply and demand for 25-26. In terms of consumption, if trade is policies is an uncertainty, what we have seen particularly in Americas, North and South America, the development of biofuel is definitively a driver for farmers to produce more. So that's something we have to look, but without any impact in terms of grains availabilities on the grains market.
Oh, well, absolutely. You know, since the COVID time where we started saying, oh, this has been a COVID year, so we can't take these numbers. And then this has been a war year, can't take these numbers. And then this year has been a tariff year, we can't take these numbers. Anupam, would you say that for the last 4 or 5 years, we've kind of lost sense on what the base year or a base price looks like?
Yes, that's right. Volatility has been very complicated. But I would say now we are back more in a more normal situation if you look at the global market about volatility, because we have also it's a sense of replenishment of the stocks. If you look on the major exporters, the ending stocks will be back and growing in the higher numbers, which provides uncertainties also for the market. So we expect having less volatility on the grains market.
It's a very complicated question what you have asked, what is a normal level of price? Because price always have two distinct components. One is the component defined by the money supply growth, and second is the individual eccentricity of a particular commodity in the basket, which is reflective of the supply-demand imbalance. Assuming the supply-demand imbalance is not there in any of the individual complexes, then we shift back to the aggregate money supply between the base year and now. And if you use the aggregate value of the grains complex divided by aggregate money supply, we are still lower than 2007 levels, if you see that. Because the base parameter for the aggregate price index is directly related to the aggregate money supply in various geographies and the world as a whole. So even today, if you look at the Indian asset prices, a typical example of Indian stock market, and that will give you a very clear example. The aggregate money supply, the market capitalization divided by aggregate money supply in India is even lower than 2007 highs. So essentially what we have seen in the nominal price gain is essentially simply a reflection of the change in the aggregate money supply. So if taking that into cognizance, my sense is that agriculture, the prices of the entire grain complex even today is below 2007 on the money supply aggregate basis.
Since we are talking prices right now, Khalid, let me start with you as well. What is your sense on all of those commodities that you spoke about on a price view going forward from here? You spoke about the demand, supply, inventories, the government policies and the government procurement. We've spoken all of that. But if we had to look at, let's say, the rest of this year or perhaps the next as well, till the next season, how would you look at prices?
So before I answer this question, on a lighter note, you asked what should be the base year. So one was before COVID, and another can be after Donald AD and BC. So coming to your next question regarding the price outlook. See, it's very difficult to predict prices these years, especially when we are facing uncertainties which cannot be sort of forecasted. So you can forecast the price basis some of the other supply demand fundamentals, but when there is a climate change threat, when there is a threat of so-called tariffs which nobody knows, when there is a threat of the geopolitical scenarios, so all the AI-based forecasting models, they really get confused because they have never been exposed so much with so high frequency to these events of climate change, geopolitical threats, and the tariff threats. So if we really look at only going by the supply demand, I see prices for the next 18 months to be almost flat at the current levels. It can be adjusted to the inflation normal 4-5%.
Khalid, you're saying that for wheat and corn and rice?
Yes. Rice, in fact, I see a bearish tone because of the excess production not only in India, but in all major rice producing countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Pakistan. And so that is true for almost all the kharif crops. We are seeing an excess production. And this coupled with I'm talking about for the time being about India for that matter. So coupled with the kind of work that is happening on the yield increase, the climate resilient varieties, although the pace is very slow, I do agree, but there is a change which we are seeing. For example, if we look at the eastern part of the country, like West Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, the more and more area is coming under, say for example, maize, and we have started getting yields better than the world averages of close to 6 to 7 tons. Yes, the kharif growing states, kharif maize growing states have to catch up. Now, the challenge comes when the farmer gets confused. For example, after looking at very high prices of maize in Bihar last year, the acreage in UP, UP farmers started growing more and more of maize. After looking at very good prices which are being earned by the Bihar maize farmer. What is happening now, as against a current MSP of 2,225 per quintal, the UP farmer is realizing only 1,800 to 1,900 per quintal. And let me remind, the next MSP from 1st of October is going to be 2,400. And already the MP farmers, which have again shifted from soybean to maize, the traders are expecting the MP farmer to sell their maize at 2,000 to 2,100. So the farmer is getting confused. On one hand, as Mr. Sood very rightly said, you are buying paddy at 3,100 rupees, and then you are asking the paddy farmer to shift to maize, where he is realizing only 1,800 to 1,900. So maize scenario is confusing the farmer. That is one of the reasons why I believe that the maize prices are likely to be subdued. And globally also, what will really decide the maize prices is not only the food and the feed demand, but the demand for the biofuels. So considering all three put together, wheat, I look at prices remaining subdued. There is a good production. Some demand destruction happened at the very high prices. Then rice, I see prices to be down with very high and good production, particularly in the Asia and the Southeast Asian markets. For example, Indonesia, which used to import 4.3 million tons, they are having a very good crop of their own, and that is the reason they are going to reduce their imports significantly. And so is the case even in Vietnam, Thailand, everywhere the production is really good, where we were seeing droughts just a couple of years back. As far as corn is concerned, a lot will depend on the policies on the biofuels which the governments of various nations are going to adopt for their own economies. So I see prices to be, for the next 12 to 18 months, I see prices to be flat and maybe subdued globally.
So when for wheat you call it subdued, you're calling it subdued at what level? 32, 33?
No, if you talk about India, I don't think prices will be crossing 30.
All right. Okay. So Anupam, taking a leaf out of what he said now, flattish prices for wheat and corn and price decline for rice. And also just add pulses to that too.
So what he says is right. If you look at individual components, again, the timeline is BC and AD. So BC rice was below 500 million tons globally, and now 498 or something, and now it is...
BC is before COVID. What is AD?
AD is after Donald. So he just said that. So AD is now the rice supply is close to around 543, 544 million tons. The world cannot start to consume 44 million tons in a span of 4-5 years. So I mean, there are again, this is a classic example of what government policies can do to the whole complex. The prices ranged between from 2012 to 2022, the global rice prices for 5% wheat rice was between $360 to $430. That was a range for almost 10 years. And as soon as we put the ban, the prices rallied from, they broke away for the 460 barrier and reached as high as $630 per ton. And because of those prices, every country actually put their productive resources in motion and responded with around 43 million, 45 million tons excess rice across the globe. And world is grappling to address that, what to do with this kind of rice. The similar situation we had seen like when India stopped the wheat export, the response came from some of the, when a large country stops or changes a trade policy, the price reaction that comes from that policy action does result into supply responses which the market cannot absorb in a short span of time. Same thing is true for corn as well, because when the government of India put an ethanol policy in action, India created a situation that it is never going to export maize, and at some point of time it can start looking at it. So I think bioethanol is not purely from a sustainable viewpoint, because sustainability of biofuel itself is questionable on the energy equivalence term, because today of the total global energy use, 620 exajoules, the food systems alone are consuming 300 exajoules. So one has to look at the sustainability equation of ethanol, but it is very important for the political economy of the grain production, where farmers can be compensated by equating their produce with fuel, and at least can give them inflation indexed value, because the fuel prices are fairly inflation indexed globally for last 10 to 15 years. So my sense is that wheat and rice obviously will remain subdued. Corn again will keep on responding to the bioethanol complex, which is now the US is the primary driver of the bioethanol, and that will depend a lot on how does the agriculture equations in the trade deal get sorted between US and their trading partners. This is the broad three categories of grains on the price scenario.
As we see it right now. Okay, so there's no really major concerns about inflation, would you say, Deepak? When it comes to wheat and rice, well, of course, rice we are abundant in globally as well. I add on pulses to that, because you talk a lot about pulses also. And in the last few conclaves, conversations, everybody is talking about on how the origin countries are producing so much pulses, so much more for India itself. How would you look at the prices there?
So let me start with wheat. So I think I'm totally with Khalid Bhai on this, right?
Subdued.
Subdued, and government will ensure that actually it doesn't cross 32.
All right. For the next 12 to 18 months is what we're talking about.
Yes. Rice, we know that actually there is glut everywhere, right? So there is until unless AD does something, right? Something really out of the box. I don't see any increase or any upside there. Now coming to pulses, actually, this is where actually we have to congratulate the government, frankly, right? And you have seen, why we don't talk wheat and rice too much. Pulses is in conversation every day. And dal महंगी हो गई, थाली से दाल चली गई, दाल कड़वी हो गई. We hear a lot of about pulses. And I, frankly, actually, I would request all the people who are in pulses commodity trade or ecosystem, stop overemphasizing on yourselves, right? The number of farmers growing pulses is minuscule when you compare to rice and wheat. And at the same time, the pulses as part of your overall, your food basket is also too small. So please don't, think so important. Now, government is very smart. They have ensured that actually the prices of pulses has been subdued. And I see, when we talk about, because pulses is basket, so I'll have got each of them. So P, we are seeing, I was in Africa, right? I've seen the crop look pretty well. Mozambique is going to give you at least 10% more than what last year was. Plus the problem of the Mozambique now, it is because it is now buyer's market, those type of issues are going to taken care of. Tanzania looks as good or as bad as last year. Malawi also similar, and Malawi is too small. Sudan, they are the new entrant, which are doing pretty well, and I think they'll also increase. So Africa is sorted. Myanmar also had a decent crop, previously. India also, while we had not something which compared to last, say 4 years back, but still better than last year. So P, I don't see anything. Those who are looking for any teji in that, actually, sorry, it's not going to happen. It's done and dusted. Coming to Moong, again, we are producing well, and actually even the swing is high, so I don't see even too much of upside on the Moong there. Coming to black mape, again, it's I would say that Myanmar is having a decent crop, and while there is talk of Brazil and all that, they're not going to be interested in type of market we are in. So that is just and I'm saying that good to have a story, but nothing big there. In Indian crop is also lentils. Now that is where actually I think the game is a little bit of a challenge. We are having too much of it. Still prices are high. One of the reasons the prices are still to the level where today is because there has been shift. Right. We have seen that P eating public have moved toward masoor quite a lot. Now, this is where actually we have to be careful about. Another thing is that actually, though it is not essential commodity, but yellow peas. Now, I think the smartest thing this government has done, which frankly, I have been always opposing it, because of the farmer side. We'll talk about farmer side also. So from the consumer side, because of yellow peas, most of the other pulses have been subdued because eventually substitution happens, because if we compare with chana, right, your yellow peas is like, at hardly 65, 66% of the price, half the price. So there also, like, while we are having shortage of chana this year, right, from last year, actually, we are looking at roughly 500,000 less crop this year, which is a big number. But you are not seeing that reflection in prices of the chana because yellow peas is taking care of it. And we are having roughly 1.3 million metric tons of yellow peas in our ports and in our supply. So pulses basket from consumer side looks great. Now let's come from the side of the farmers. None of the pulses is even close to MSPs, right?
And they haven't been there for last 12 months now.
Exactly. So pulses farmers are bleeding. Now, as a nation, do we want that actually, like, we are not interested in producing our own pulses and depend on imports? That's also fine. That could be a great policy. But you will see that actually, like, there has been a severe challenge when it comes to pulses for the farmers. Lentils, pigeon pea, urad, except chana, you'll find that most of them are either 15 to 20% below the MSP, and for a pretty long time. And now if we have also increased the MSP this year, now next year if you are having 80 rupees an MSP and you give 56 rupees to a farmer, how keen he would be to, like, grow pulses? That I think, like, that is to be taken care of at the highest level. I would also like to add just one more small point, right? While the government has done one more smart thing, actually, I love the way they are trying to promote cooperatives, right? I think government intention would be that actually, like, from the middlemen, the traders, the ardiyas, all sort of, like, which take 35 to 40% from between the consumer to the farmer, that thing goes to farmers. So long-term government is backing on that even at 56, if farmer will be happy because there would be a lot of support coming because of the cooperative movement which India started. And I appreciate government for doing that. And in fact, Unupam is one of the, like, as an early pole bearer of that, like, with that institution. And I think cooperatives are the way forward for this India, for ensuring farmers are happy and the consumer are happy. Traders, my apologies to you guys.
Okay. Yes, cooperative is something that we've been talking about for many, many years since I started working in media as well. But it still has a lot of hinges there and concerns, and we'll come to that as well, because we've seen intermediaries come and protest, and there has been a lot talked about that. We'll come to that. But let me get to Mr. Sood now and end this conversation about prices first. Mr. Sood, what is your sense? Pulses prices have been declining below MSP. Rest of the commodities, food grains, there's no really concern. Is inflation under control? And would you say that is how you'll see it next 12 and 18 months as well?
Actually, I have started wondering whether the farmer is really bothered about MSP. Because look at Moong. Early days, but of all the crops, the area under Moong is 10 lakh hectares more.
So, Mr. Sood, let me turn it around and ask you then, who does MSP serve right now?
Actually, areas in which the government has not intervened, like dairy, they haven't intervened much, it's the cooperatives. They have grown. I mean, you know it already that
Fisheries and
our
dairies
total
is
edible
well.
oil domestic production may be less than dairy fat, or maybe just equal. And where is the emphasis on, where is the public debate on dairy fat? None. And we hear of Atmanirbhar, etc. in the other area. And so MSP, now coming back to the other question.
Who does it serve? Who does MSP serve?
I think it serves nobody. It's a negative vibe which the government gets, if any, that they set a MSP and are unable to defend it, and therefore there will be some dissatisfaction somewhere. They have the trader. Till now they believe that MSP is sacrosanct. In case of corn, they have a lot of stock holding, expecting that it will go to MSP. There were some imports also initially, and all of them were bleeding. And in case of chickpeas also, the prices are where they were in February or March, in fact, a little lower. And so traders suffer, farmers, I don't think, care, and the government might be getting negative political fallout from there. So
Mr. Sood,
And
where
then
does
hot-
it put us when you say farmers don't care anymore?
I mean, they grown moong. 1 million hectares more, it's about double. If you have about 1.2 million more in pulses, out of which 1 million is in the one which was selling pathetically low, 20-25% below the MSP. So that is empirical evidence that it doesn't care. And
So I'll just add very important, very pertinent point. See, moong, generally Zayed and all that, it is 2.5 months crop. Right now you are having MSP of 2 or 6 month crop, same. So I'm saying that the farmer has started seeing it through. So yes, nobody is right, even I believe in that. But yes, maybe politicians might be making like, some profit out of it.
Let's not get there.
the farmer is looking at cost. And the patur cost is much higher. And now, again, in terms of the whole thing is policy determined and short-term reactions. For instance, somewhere in October last year, we all thought that we might need about 3 million tons of corn import, and the people. Now the policy changed in February. Those who had sold ethanol based on corn, they were told you will be getting FCI rice if you wish. So by 11th of Feb, please give your. By that time, corn prices were a bit high. Some people got trapped because they make much more money on corn ethanol than the rice today. So those who have been trapped, in any case, what we managed to do was wipe out that import need. And what we also managed to do was to make sure that corn will sell below MSP. And right now, if Mr. B.V. Mehta says that area under soybean has caught up as last year, not a wonder, because the farmer knows it is not going to get a price. And so now, so that is one. And other one is that wherever the incomes rise, rice consumption comes down. Because a family, they want to cook, they want to eat pizza, they want to eat something else. And if you want to take a meal to office, the lady is also working, she'll rather carry a roti or something rather than rice. And so, but then our emphasis on rice production. I don't know for whom we are increasing. And rice, basmati rice might suffer.
So would you also believe, by the way, there are a lot of biryani takers also, so just saying. But would you say then with all the stuff that you put out that the prices are not going to increase for many of these commodities?
Pardon?
Would you say that the prices are not going to increase for food grains or for pulses going forward?
Yeah, they're going to be, for pulses, going to remain low, as Deepak said. For corn, it's pathetic, and rice, pathetic. Wheat should remain steady.
We have a new word. We don't even say bearish anymore. We say pathetic.
Yes.
Naveen, your sense on prices
I'm a very
going?
outspoken person.
Yeah, so
We're just coining words here. We're doing BC and AD and pathetics, and yes, you want to add?
So from pricing point of view, what we see in our portfolio going forward, negative on pulses, chickpeas and basmati rice, neutral on corn and cotton and oil seeds, and positive on edible oil. That is what we think.
All right, very crisp there. Mr. Pettit, if you are there, would you want to have a say on prices going forward? What's your sense for the next 12 to 18 months for food grains going forward? Are you also in a camp that believes that the prices in next 12 to 18 months will continue to be subdued or even decline? Mr. Pettit, a final word from you. Are you there? Mr. Pettit is not there? Okay, maybe he's dropped out. All right, then we'll close it here then. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining in. So that clearly is the view coming in that we're looking at no inflation. It maybe doesn't work for farmers, definitely not for traders. For importers, maybe not so much. For consumers, well, there's a huge difference that we have seen from wholesale to retail prices. So does it work for consumers? Not so much. Is MSP serving anybody? Not really. So there are a bit of more questions than we've come out on this panel than answers here. But one thing is clear, that we're not looking at very high inflation when it comes to food grains or pulses prices going forward. Okay, we have Mr. Pettit. We were just concluding this panel, but we will take your final word. Do you also believe that the prices going forward will continue to be subdued?
Subdued it will really depend about something outside of the supply and demand. And I'm referring to the trade policy and uncertainties and sometimes on geopolitics. But it is right that today, I agree with all the speakers that there is no factors to see an increase of prices. And I would like to add particularly, we have to look at something new is also competition between commodities, because we went through the silo approach for the different commodities, but we have seen currently need also competition between soy meal, feed wheat, and maize. So this is why for feed, I think it's really a positive signal for the market. And last point I would like to add, because we talk a lot about policies, please just be in mind that the food consumption is going up. So we are not talking on a market which is stable in terms of size. It's a market which is growing, growing, and growing. So this is why it's very important to pay attention to that commodity and that market particularly in order for the farmers to get a good price signal. I think that's very important to work on this point for the future. Thank you.
Mr. Pettit, I get that completely. Farmers should be getting the proper price there, and that's something that we need to be lacking, and as you said, need to be worked upon as well. You wanted to put a final concluding comment.
So you have seen that great discussion we had with some of the really extraordinary panelists. So you'll be having 10x of that when you'll be coming to Dubai. 25th or 27th of November, we'll be having Grains World. Please be there, and we'll have a real global perspective on that. Mr. Petit will be supporting us in that, our initiative, and looking forward to see you in Dubai.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for that wonderful session we had, wonderfully moderated by Ms. Manisha Gupta. And I would now like to invite Ms. Zaman on stage to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude. We present to our distinguished moderator, Ms. Manisha Gupta, the Commodities Editor, CNBC. Thank you very much indeed. To Mr. Khalid Khan, Vice President, Bulk Commodities, ITC Limited. To Mr. Anupam Kaushik, Managing Director, NCEL. To Mr. G.K. Sood, Non-Executive Chairman, MIER Commodities India Private Limited. To Mr. Naveen Kumar, Head Trade and Structural Finance Organization and Supply Chain Solutions, Olam Agri. And to Mr. Deepak Parekh, founder, Honeybee Tech Incubations Private Limited. And I would request all our dignitaries to kindly come together for a group photograph.